get clarity in life in general and to know what mandalas. Same, I think I myself want to know like so much more on this topic. I would love to know more. Curious. Perfect. I think on that note, I'll once again say welcome to everybody who's joined in with us today. It's lovely to see you all. If you know it's your first time here on Soul Sensei. Soul Sensei is a space built for healing, growth, and real connections. We host live sessions, guided practices, and just to help you reconnect with yourself better through energy work and spiritual exploration, and all with some amazing guides and teachers. I'll just quickly explain the whole flow for today's session. We'll have a short introduction and then the guided practice by our guide here. And then we'll just move into taking reflections and questions towards the end. That's going to be the flow for today's session. I would love to introduce our guide for today, Rohini, who's already here with us. Rohini is a meditation guide, a mandala artist, and a sound healer with over 10 years of experience. She creates calming sessions that blend art, breathwork, and meditation to help people relax, connect with themselves, and experience the magic of mandalas. I think it's lovely to have you here, Rohini. We're so
Thank you.
glad to have you here. Over to you, wishing everyone a lovely and a soulful session ahead.
Right. Thank you so much, Avina. And good evening to everyone. And thank you so much for joining us during this session, because I know there are 100 things you could be doing today. So thank you for sharing your time and energy. So for those of you who have expressed curiosity, I hope I can answer all of your questions. So as Avina was saying, actually, just before that, Avina, is it okay if I share a document?
Yes, you can do
Yep.
that.
Okay, great. All right. So then you don't have to just look at my face. You can also see the document and our brief introduction to what mandala meditation can do for your life. Right? So a little bit about me. I am a yoga teacher for many years, since 2012. And I actually came to the mandala practice through yoga. So, as we know, yoga talks a lot about unity and this essence of finding the self. And as an artist, I saw many references to mandalas, in the ashram that I was living in the rituals that we were performing, and seeing the deeper meaning when we're looking at more technical drawings like yantras. So there's a lot of symbolism that's associated with mandala art. And as I started on my journey at being an artist, I found it to be very therapeutic, not just from a spiritual standpoint, but also really from the mental and emotional standpoint. So anytime I found that I was struggling with something which I was maybe not able to express verbally, I found art as, and especially mandala art, to be a amazing outlet. And actually through yoga into mandala art, it flowed into sound healing, because I don't know if you're all aware of this, but sound itself, it creates patterns all around us. It vibrates, sound vibrates around us. And interestingly, when sound is vibrating, it creates its own form of mandalas. So they're called, it's the study of cymatics, which we can talk about more the next time we meet on hopefully the 16th, when you all will be joining. So what is a mandala? Essentially, the texts tell us a mandala is a circle, but it goes so much more beyond that. We're actually looking at it from a viewpoint of, sorry, one moment, please. I think I lost this. Are you all still able to see my screen? Yeah, okay, great. All right. So it is essentially the practice of bringing together these patterns in an intricate way. So we see mandalas in various aspects of life. Some are very symmetrical. Some we see in nature, as the one picture on your left-hand side. But it is essentially a meditative journey inwards. So it's rooted in a lot of ancient spiritual traditions, like in our Hindu traditions, in our Tibetan traditions. Mandalas are essentially, like I said, a circular design, and it symbolizes wholeness, unity, and the interconnectedness of life. So when we draw or color a mandala, we are actually entering a state of focused attention. And it's very much like meditation. Just out of curiosity, how many of you try to meditate or try to do a mindful practice? You can put that in the chat. Yeah, okay, Nidhi, great. Anyone else? You can raise your hand also, whichever is more convenient. All right, so a few of you I'm seeing. Prashati, okay, great. All right, so a few of you have tried meditation. So traditional meditation can be a little difficult if you've ever tried it, because if you're sitting for a long period of time, you may find, oh, my back is beginning to hurt, or you might feel sensations on the body, and your mind is just running with all kinds of thoughts. So you can look at creating a mandala essentially as a form of moving meditation. So your hand is flowing and the mind begins to settle into what you're doing. So this connection between the mind and the flow of action begins to happen. So over time, this practice becomes a container for your emotional release, your energetic balance, and deeper inner clarity. Right? So just to very briefly touch upon, I'll take our Hindu tradition, for example. So in Hinduism, you may see something a little bit more traditional, like a yantra, right? So this is, oh, I don't know if you can see that. This is a yantra. And I'll just bring this other one here. Oh, here. Right, so right here, this is how we typically see our in Hinduism. Oh, okay. So right there, okay. So you see it starts from the center, moving outwards with a pattern. Here you can see the lotus petals, and then of course here there's the bhupura. So yantras are geometric diagrams that are used typically in ritual and meditation. So in meditation, we would use them, for example, with tratak, keeping the eyes open to focus on the yantra and taking in aspects of the shape and the symbolism associated with it. And our temples in India are built on a mandala-inspired floor plan. So it represents, again, that harmony between our human life and cosmic order. So the purpose is connecting with the deities, focusing the mind, and aligning with spiritual energies. Okay? So, and I'll talk a little bit more about this when we have this full session on the 16th. Okay? All right, so some of the things that happen when you do mandala art, which is also a wonderful thing. Number one is coming into what we call a flow state. And a flow state means that you kind of forget about time. Time no longer matters to you. You are fully engrossed in that moment, right? So that's when the thoughts also start to reduce. And you may notice that maybe when you're watching a movie or listening to music that you enjoy, but we're doing this in a more meditative and a more mindful way, right? So we have an emotional release, of course, that is beginning to happen. It creates focus. And I'll go a little deeper, so you can read what's on the screen, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper. For example, if you're suffering from anxiety, which I know many people are these days, and you don't have to share right now, but there are a lot of studies have been done that mandala art itself, for example, there was a study done in 2017 that drawing within a circular mandala is actually very significant in reducing things like anxiety compared to just free drawing. So for a lot of people, even drawing can be an anxious thing because it's very unstructured. And this is done, like I said, in 2017, and it was an American journal that had published about art therapy and specifically mandala art. And, even if you don't want to draw a mandala, coloring mandalas helps to lower stress. And so even these pre-drawn mandalas significantly reduce anxiety and take away that aspect of, oh, I can't draw or anything like that. And of course, it helps with our emotional regulation. You may find that at certain times when we are emotionally upset, maybe we don't have the words to express ourselves, or we have words that are angry or that are rooted in some disturbance. And at that time, it can be a little difficult for us as well as those around us to, actually fully express ourselves. So again, a study done in 2012 found that structured mandala coloring or drawing helps with greater emotional regulation. Right? And then, of course, trauma processing, similar to if you're not able to talk about your trauma, coming to a practice like mandala art where you're using color, you're using shape. So you can see on this particular screen, this mandala is not your traditional symmetrical mandala. Like, for example, I'll just show you a mandala here. All right, like this one right here. All right, so you can see like this in comparison to what's on your screen. This has concentric circles starting from the center. There's a visual center point. This one is Ganesh. And then there are concentric circles moving outwards with a pattern. All right, so this is a more a very structured mandala. Right, so not all mandalas look the same. There's a very wide variety of how mandalas can look. Right, so in summary, actually before we get to the summary, mandala-based therapy, it helps enhance mindfulness. So has there ever been a time, like right now I'm speaking to all of you, but you may find your mind is wandering, or, oh, I need to cook dinner for my family, or I need to go somewhere. There's always this dialogue that happens in our mind. And what a practice of creativity through mandala art helps us to do, it cultivates mindfulness, meaning that in this moment right here, there's nothing else that's going on. I am fully focused in the present moment. I'm not worried about the future. I'm not worried about the past. I am completely here in this moment. And that actually creates a beautiful thing in our relationships when we're able to be fully present for our family, our friends. There's a huge change that begins to happen. Okay. So any questions here before I move on? So I see, let's see.
If anyone has a question, y'all can put it into the chat box.
Yeah. No? All right. So we can move on. And so in our workshop, what we're going to be doing is essentially coming to...
questions.
Yeah, okay. So Devang, how does mandalas increase energy? So if I understand you correctly, one of the things that you may find when you come back from work, so either we're, watching Netflix or we're putting our time into scrolling on our phones, and these kind of things, they actually leach a lot of energy from us. when you are doing a mandala practice, you are actually connecting to your inner world. And I say that because you're connecting through color, you're connecting through a particular pattern. So your emotions are coming out onto the page. So if you've ever had a fight with anyone had a fight with someone? I know I have in the past. Yeah, we've all gotten angry at someone. What happens when we get angry? There is this burst of emotion that comes out, and you may feel actually drained. And sometimes talking to certain people in our lives, there you feel, oh my gosh, I feel tired after speaking to someone. So, in comparison to putting our energy outwards in a way that drains us, mandala art allows us to, one, emotionally regulate. So, if I'm angry, which is a high energy, or I'm sad, it helps me come to a neutral state, right? And at the end of it, I know, at least for myself, I find that when I see what I've created without looking at it in a critical way or anything like that, I feel, oh wow, I was able to do something creative out of my sadness or my anger. So that's how our energy gets transformed, essentially. Okay. Then is it different from the chakras present in the body? So yes and no. Now, what we're going to be doing on the 16th, I'm not diving into anything to do with the chakras, but essentially a chakra, the way it is drawn, is similar to how a mandala is drawn. So that's where the similarity is. So we also call chakras mandalas because of how they are drawn. But we will not be getting into actual chakras on the day of drawing. That's I want slightly advanced. I want to get you guys familiar and comfortable with drawing a mandala. And then hopefully the next time we can get into how to connect with chakras through a drawing practice. All right. So do we color outside or inside? So usually it's inside, but you can also color outside of the mandala. So you see like the mandala that's on the screen right now, there it's colored on the inside. The pattern is being colored. But that doesn't mean or doesn't stop you in any way from coloring around the mandala. Okay. And this is a great question, Pooja. No, you do not need to be good at drawing at all. You can have not picked up a pencil since you were a child, no problem. So what we're going to be doing on the 16th is we're going to be exploring two aspects. If you have a compass and a ruler, fantastic. If you don't, not a big deal. We can also be drawing mandalas freehand. Right, so I showed you there was one mandala that was on the screen that's freehand. So like this, I created a bunch of mandalas all freehand here. Okay, so it is based on your comfort. If we're going to be using a compass and a ruler, it'll be really easy to do. Oh, I drew on the screener. Well, anyways, it's fine. Okay, so you do not have to be good in drawing. In fact, the more of a beginner you are, the better off it's going to be. All right. And is there any rule about coloring a mandala? No, there is no particular rule about it because it is your mandala and it is about what you are expressing. So a mandala can be contained the way you're seeing it here, or it can, so see like in this one, the coloring is all around as well. Okay, so there are no hard and fast rules. This is about you being able to find your expressive voice through this practice. Okay. Oh, you just drew a sun and a tree and a mountain in school. All right. Well, that's great. You can add that into your mandala. All right, so we'll be doing a little bit more of a introduction to what the basics of mandalas are. So I'll be talking a little bit about how to create your patterns in the workshop. And let me go back one step. Since this is a moving meditation, it is a creative meditation. one of the first things that we do is to ground ourselves with our breath. So when our breath is disturbed, we find it that the mind is not able to focus. So we're going to do a little bit of breathing, and then we're going to get into the basics of pattern making, understanding, how to create our mandala. And then we will do a guided mandala creation. So I hope on the 16th, we're going to create at least like 2 mandalas. One will be more freehand, and then the other will be using a compass, a ruler, and a protractor. All right, are all of you familiar with the protractor? This is the one that tells us the degrees, 10 degrees, 20 degrees, etc. All right. And along with your practice, because I am a sound healer, we will be playing some calming frequencies to enhance creativity, and to really allow you to go deeper into the practice. And then, of course, at the end, it would be lovely to see what your reflections are about the practice. All right. So that's it for me. Just to remind you all that this session is on the 16th, is going to be 2 hours long. It's open to anyone. You do not have to have any type of drawing experience. And if you have it, like for sure you'll need a piece of paper, even if it's a little post-it note like this. Even if you only have this, that's fine. Just bring a piece of paper with you so that we can draw together. All right. If you have it, bring some colored pencils. You don't have to go buy anything special as such, just a pencil, a pen, whatever you have handy. And I want to show you the magic of what this practice can bring. Okay. And I think I'd seen another question. How do we interpret after doing the mandalas? Can we do it ourselves? So for sure you can. One of the ways that I interpret my mandalas is actually through both line and color. So for example, and we learn about this in art therapy, if you're angry, you may find, and when you're specifically when you're drawing, you may find that when you're upset in some way, the patterns you're drawing might be a little bit more jagged. If you're in a calmer state of mind, they might be flowing a little bit more, they may be a little bit more rounded. So you can interpret your patterns as well as the colors that are going into your mandala. So it's a very intuitive practice. It's not an intellectual practice, meaning you don't have to think, well, does this color go with this, etc. That's not what we're doing tomorrow, on Sunday. This is more about you finding your creative voice. And yes, for sure, you will be able to create it on your own. Okay. So I've shown you a few different mediums in this slide, where it's a structured mandala using compass, ruler, protractor. This one on the screen is a watercolor mandala. Then also more free-flowing mandalas that, are still round, but not perfect circles. So this is really about expression and being able to find that voice. And of course, because I'm a yoga teacher, I focus more on that inner aspect of finding that inner peace, that inner clarity that we were just talking about, and expanding that outwards. Okay. Any other questions before? I'll just look in the chat. No.
The floor is open for more questions. If
Yeah.
there's anything that you need to ask, you
Yeah.
can put it in.
Okay. So yes,
Totally
only
fine.
coloring can help. So if you have a mandala coloring book, which there are a lot of on the market, you can do that as well. So, that for me at least, I found like when I don't want to create something, there are days when I just feel I want to just put something down on a piece of paper. Coloring is a wonderful way to do that. But essentially, what we're trying to do on the 16th is take you from a scattered mind to a more centered mind or a more centered energy. We're taking you from being overwhelmed about maybe your emotions, maybe your thoughts, to being more peaceful. And then if you have an art background or you are creative in some way, it doesn't have to be as like an artist in terms of drawing. You could be a singer, a composer, you could be a writer. So going from being maybe stuck in your thoughts or stuck in a problem solving situation, this could be even at home or at work, you go into a creative space, right? So it also helps us with our problem solving. So imagine how you'd feel going from scattered to centered, from overwhelmed to being peaceful, and then being stuck to being open, right? So which vibration or frequency is good for us? So there are a number of frequencies that are very healing. Of course, there is a 528 frequency, which is all about higher spiritual connection. There is the 174 frequency, which is all about pain reduction. So I'll talk very briefly about that on the 16th. And the type of frequencies that we'll be playing are to open up that creativity. All right. So hello, Rohini, thank you. Circular path. So typically, yes. However, when you saw the yantra, so in the yantra, we have a square, right? So what actually constitutes the mandala aspect is that we're starting from the center. This is what we usually call as the bindu, right? This is the start for your mandala, for even the bhupura, which is what we call this square around the yantra. All right, so there are square elements in there. There are even triangular elements. In this one, it's a little hard to see, but here there is a triangle on the inside, right? So even when we're drawing the Shri Yantra, the Shri Yantra is a combination of 9 triangles, moving upwards and downwards. So we're using basic geometry like triangles, circles, squares, even a hexagon. All of these become part of it because of how you are starting the practice, all right? So traditionally, yes, in Sanskrit, the term mandala means circular. But when we are creating, we are actually using basic geometry, things that we learned in school, all right? So those triangles, the circles, the squares, it's more about your imagination and letting that come out, right? So you said my hand usually draws somewhat elliptical pattern, either in the air. Okay, yeah, that's absolutely fine too. So if you're going to do a free-flowing mandala, an elliptical is not a problem, right? And do we use any color combination or color? So like I said, on the 16th, bring what colors you have. And because it's an intuitive practice, meaning it's coming from here, it's not coming from the head where you're saying, oh, yellow and blue, they complement each other. It might just be that you're drawn to a particular color. And it may just be only one color. Like you saw some of the mandalas that I was drawing, it was only one color. And even if on that day you decide, I don't want to use color, I'm just using a pen to draw my mandala, that's also fine. Okay? So it's about you finding that inner voice, that inner intuition that is really there to guide us, to protect us. And the more we do practices like this, that tap into our creativity, they actually help us not just in this moment, they echo through various activities that we do in life, right? On a day-to-day basis. All right, so that's enough of me talking your ears off. But please do share if you have any questions, and I'd love to see you all there so we can share in this beautiful practice together. And let me just stop sharing. Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you so much, Rohini. I think this was a lovely session. So much information in such a short time. I would also like to tell everyone that Rohini has another session coming up on the 16th of November at 4 p.m. The link will be there in the chat box for you to register. We are hoping to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining this session. Hoping to see you all for more sessions with Rohini and for more sessions on Soul Sensei. See you all. Have a good evening and a lovely day ahead.
All right. Thank you all so much for sharing your time with us. Thanks.
Thank you.